Noach and the ark. But the fact that people don't do what they need to do in life does not exempt me from me trying. And so there's a purpose that Noah did this project. He tried to help the people, and that was God's instruction to Noah to make this move. But people did not listen. There are a lot of people in life that after they pass away, they're going to be shown the videotape of their opportunities of what they could have done. You were given this opportunity. Why didn't you take advantage of the opportunity? I think that was that's a little bit. How do you like that idea, David? And what did you say? We're on page 32B. 32B3. 32B3. Look at the Mishnah. We started the Mishnah yesterday. We'll just repeat the Mishnah. 32B3. The Mishnah stated, says, somebody who is the Chazan on the Yom Tov, on the holiday of Rosh Hashanah. We're going to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Where do we blow the shofar? Hasheni Matkiyah. The Chazan at Musaf, at the prayer of Musaf, the second prayer of the day. That's when there is the blowing of the shofar. And we said yesterday the language Hasheni Matkiyah means the second Chazan causes the blowing of the shofar. In this shul, I'm not sure. Is Shmuel the one who davens Musaf on Rosh Hashanah, or someone else davens Musaf on Rosh Hashanah? It's the Chazan. It's the causes the blowing, because as a result of during the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah, during the Musaf, there's the blowing of the shofar. So it's done by the second prayer, Musaf. Ubeshat Halel, and when there's in a time period when there's Halel, meaning during a Yom Tov that there's Halel, Harishon Makri the Halel. They are the first person. The Chazan for Shachrit is the one who reads the Halel. We say Halel at Shachrit, right? Today is Rosh Chodesh. When are we going to say Halel? We're going to say half a Halel at Shachrit, at the end of Shachrit. We don't go ahead and say Halel at the end of Musaf. So the Gemara is going to try to understand what's going on. See, when you're used to something, you don't even realize there's a question. We're used to shofar at Musaf, right, David? We welcome David back. We're happy that David is back. That we do shofar at Musaf. We do Halel at Shachrit. Why? Why the switch? You got that, Adam? That's going to be the Gemara's question. That's how the Gemara opens up with the question. Maishna Matkiyah. Maishna Sheni Matkiyah. Why is it that specifically the second Chazan causes the blowing of the shofar at the Musaf? Why isn't the first Chazan causing the blowing of the shofar? We turn the page. Now we're on 32b4. Now, what's the reason that the shofar is different? That it goes ahead and you blow it at Musaf. Now, if you're going to tell me, Mishum de Barov Am Hadrat Melech, there's a concept that it's a greater honor for the king when there's many people. For instance, when a person makes a rally, right? How it looks good when a person has 100 people at a rally or 1,000 people at a rally, right? Much more honorable for the person when there's a much bigger crowd, right? So too, it's much more honorable for God, if we could say, much more respect for God when there's more people involved in the mitzvah. Adam, if you want to send to the group, so you don't mind. So if you're going to tell me, and then more people come, there are more people at Musaf than at Shachrit, because some people come a little later to prayers. And if you're going to tell me, because there's more people that reach the synagogue by Musaf, so then, if that's the case, Hallel Nami Basheni, Hallel should also be at Musaf, Mishum Debarovam Hadar Melech, because of this concept there are more people. If it's true See, when you have two concepts that are clashing, one concept is called Rov Am Hadrat Melech. The more people, the more it's a more respectful. It's a better action when there's more people there. But that's one concept. We have another concept called Zrizim Magdimin LaMitzvot. What is that concept? The people that are diligent, that act with alacrity, they do things early. They don't wait. They don't delay a mitzvah. So now you have a situation. The shofar, or let's say Hallel. Hallel, if we wait to Musaf, the mitzvah will be done with more people doing it together. But if we do it earlier in the by Shachrit, we will be following the concept of doing a mitzvah early. Like Avraham, when he was told to bring Yitzchak, Vayashkem, Avraham Babuka, like Simon said. He got up early in the morning. That is a beautiful idea. That's a very big concept, to do the mitzvah as soon as you can. So, and that, I don't know if I'm allowed to use the word trump, that trumps that trumps the idea of Rov Am. The concept of doing something early trumps the idea of Rov Am, trumps the idea of doing something with many people. And therefore we explain, based on this, there's a very interesting halacha that we say. When a baby boy is born, we do the Brit when? The morning. Even though, Rabbi, I can have more people come if we do it at a later time. Let's say a Sunday. We do a Sunday afternoon. We'll get more people to come. We say no. Better do the mitzvah earlier. Don't delay to the afternoon just because you're going to have more people at the event. So if that's the case, since that's the case, in Kiyanami, the blowing of the shofar, Navid B'Rishon, we should also do it at Shachrit. Mishum the Zvizim Makim in the mitzvot. David, is the question clear of the Gemara? That's the Gemara's question. And then we'll do the shofar in the morning by Shachrit, and then we'll also do the special additional prayers that are necessary on the day of Rosh Hashana, which we discussed in length, the verses of shofar, the blessings of shofar, Zechronot, Malchiot, the special verses that we state in honor of the day. So Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan says that, you know what, you're right. In the beginning, there was a time period in our history that we used to blow the shofar at Shachrit in the morning. Meaning to say that for who knows how many years, the Jewish people fulfilled the mitzvah of shofar in the morning. Right away, you do the mitzvah of shofar. But what happened? What happened was that there was a decree not to blow shofar. The government that controlled the Jewish community, the foreign government says you shouldn't blow the shofar, and they would place spies in the synagogues, and the spies would wait until about noon, until the time of Shachrit was over. And if by the time of Shachrit was over, they didn't blow the shofar, they went home. And therefore, they could not blow the shofar Shachrit, because the Gemara says, Bishat, the Gemara says the language of the Gemara is Bishat Zeirat Malchut Shana. We're talking about a time period where the government did not allow you to blow. And if we blew in the afternoon, we were able, the government wasn't watching, so to speak, in the afternoon. They went home, the spies went home, and then we were able to blow. And Tosfos points out that even though there's no longer the decree, but we're concerned maybe they'll bring back that decree, and therefore we want to be careful that not to blow in the morning. And further, there is a concept that even if once they made the Gezerah, once they made this decree, the rabbi said, don't blow in the morning, wait till the Musaf. Even if the reason for the decree is no longer, sometimes the actual enactment remains. So therefore, that's why we blow at Musaf, because of the issue, governmental issues from the foreign governments not allow us to really blow in the morning. Tosos brings from the Yerushalmi a very tragic story that happened, which explains, sheds light on, has a different, a little different explanation of this Gemara, of this idea. What was the issue? The issue was when, a call to arms, a call to war, blowing a shofar, blowing a trump, blowing a shofar is a sign of battle. Blow the shofar, it's like an alarm to get the people to come together. Just like the Rambam writes, the Rambam says that shofar, the Torah does not give us a reason for the mitzvah of blowing the shofar, but the shofar, it alludes to a concept, wake up, sleeping people, wake up. It should be an alarm for the people to wake up from their actions, the way they're living life, and they got to change. They got to act differently. So that is the idea also of, so shofar is an alarm, but historically, shofar is used in battle, to call to get people to come together. And so when the Jewish people would blew the shofar in the morning, bright and early in the morning, the enemy, the host country where we were living, which was a foreign government, thought that we're coming to rebel against them. Let's say the Greeks are controlling or the Romans are controlling, and they think we are rebelling. And they came in and they hit and they killed Jewish people because their soldiers came in. The Jews are rebelling. And they killed Jews. And as a result of that, the rabbi said, we can't do the shofar in the morning because they think that it's a call to battle. Rather, we'll do it after we do Shachrit, Hallel, Kriyat Torah. They'll see, and then we blow the shofar. They'll see this is part of our religious services. It's not a call to arms. You go to call to arms, usually bright and early in the morning, you're calling your rebellion, but it's not that midday. They'll realize that this is part of your service. So therefore, that's why it was tabled, so to speak, to the Musaf. Is that fascinating? But it's not a pretty story because many Jews were killed as a result of the enemy thinking we're going to call as a call for battle. Okay.
It's not just some people just say, "Oh, well, this is what I meant,"
Right. That happened to the Jewish people, but it was unintentionally, and really, they didn't realize, they didn't think that the enemy would interpret it as, because they've been doing this for all the years. So was it a miscalculation? I don't know if that was a miscalculation. It didn't dawn on them for whatever reason, but you're 100% correct. People have to be aware their actions, how things are interpreted. And if people are going to interpret it in a very negative way, you gotta figure out how to be diplomatic about things and not do things that are going to put the Jewish community in danger.
Misunderstood as well. We're always misunderstood.
It's true, but the question is, a lot of times they want to misunderstand us. There's a certain, I call it a bias or something. There's a certain that they don't. But we also have to realize we answer to a higher standard. There's a higher standard we have to hold ourselves, because we are Jewish. We have to know the microscope is on us, but it doesn't mean we can't defend ourselves. You know what I'm saying? I'm afraid to say that many Jewish soldiers have died because maybe they it's a question is, were they too concerned for how the enemy, how the press will interpret certain things. And this is something that they have to figure out, because on the one hand, you don't want the world to condemn you. On the other hand, you don't want people getting killed in the Jewish community. So it's a very, they'll condemn whatever we do. But okay, these are big decisions. See, really, if you have leaders that are God-fearing, so then they'll make. But the problem is, when you don't have God-fearing leaders, they need help. They need proper guidance to make the right decision.
Why they cancel it completely? Because if they were totally risk averse, they would have just said, "We're canceling the shofar."
Yeah, but they realize they could, if they do it in Musaf, there's no They felt there must be a concern that the enemy will interpret it as a call for arms. But they definitely, the enemy, there was a year, 1 year, that the enemy actually interpreted as a call of arms. And it's interesting, who are the best citizens of a country, of the Jewish people? But like you said, people misinterpret us. I presume the Jewish community looks at themselves as we're going to rebel. It's not something that we generally. It's not our type of style in general. That's not usually the way that, I don't think historically the Jewish people would go up and rebel against the host country. Whoever's ruling them now. The power of the Jewish people is generally not. It's not really the. If we're leading, if we're the leading power, like David Melech's time, it's one thing. But when we are subjected under government, I think the usual, the way we usually conduct ourselves is not by force. That's not been our type of, trying to rebel type of, we have the government. We have to figure out how to work with the government who's ruling over us. That they shouldn't hurt us, kill us. But I presume we were always afraid of actually rebelling, that maybe we're not going to be successful. And it's very hard for people from within to rebel against when you're under another country, right? It's not a simple, and there's so many deaths would happen as a result of that as well. Midikama, now the Gemara picks up on another point. The Gemara picks up on another very Midikama b'shat halel. It says that when there is halel, then halal is done in the morning. Now the Gemara says, it doesn't say and halal is done in the morning. It says at a time that there's halal, meaning the context, you're talking about Rosh Hashana, and then you don't say and halal is in the morning. You say when there is halal, and a Yom Tov that there's halal, the halal is in the morning. Meaning Rosh Hashana, there is no halal. So the Gemara wants to know why not? Why isn't there halal Rosh Hashana? Rosh Hashana is a Yom Tov. Not only is it Yom Tov, many understand there's a mitzvah of Simcha on Rosh Hashanah. It's a time to be happy because you have confidence in Hashem that Hashem is going to give you a good judgment. So what is it? What is the reason why why don't we say Hallel on Rosh Hashanah? It's a Yom Tov. That's the Gemara. It's called a Moed. You're not allowed to do work. So why can't you do? Why don't we say Hallel? Amar Abavahu, and we know we make Yom Hashanah very festive. Have a festive meal on Rosh Hashanah, right? So Amar Abavahu, a very, very, very beautiful statement of the rabbis. This question was asked by the angels themselves. The ministering angel said to God, Ribono Shel Olam, the Master of the universe. Why are the Jewish community, why aren't they saying in front of you Hallel morning Asaf? Hallel both at Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur. Why aren't we saying Hallel? The Jewish community are not saying Hallel. What's going on? Now the fact that the angel asked the question, that means the angels recognize the importance of the Hallel of the Jewish community, and therefore it's on their minds. So not their minds, they don't have minds, whatever it is. They're asking the question, what's going on? The Hallel of the Jewish community is very powerful. Why aren't the people saying Hallel? Omar lehem. So God says to the angels, and Efsha, is it possible that when a melech is Yoshev al Kisei Din, when a king is sitting on the throne of justice, with Sifrei Chayim, with Sifrei Meitim, Petuchim Lefanav. Also, if he wants to know, there's going to be a 7:30 minyan. Yeah. when the king is sitting on the seat of justice, and the books of life and the books of death are opened up, is it proper? V'yisel omrim shira. Is that a proper time to sing a song? Meaning, it's not the appropriate time to sing Hallel, to sing praises of the God when God is deciding life and death. It's not the right moment. So that's the reason why the Jewish people, so since Rosh Hashanah, even though it has some aspect of happiness, but it's a time of humbling of the heart, it's not really the time of singing a song. You have to know when it's time. It's like Shlomo Melech says, it's the time to dance. It's the time, the time to speak, to say something. Time to speak, time to be quiet. A lot of people make a mistake. They keep on speaking. They don't know when to be quiet, right? So there's a time. It has to be appropriate for the time, and it's not appropriate at such a time, when such a serious type of time, when books are open, to sing. Now, I wanted to say the fact that they asked the question, what were the angels thinking? Not the California angels, by the way. What were they thinking? They're thinking, by the way, sir, there's going to be another minyan at 7:30 upstairs. Yeah. The rest of it's right over there. So, what were the angels thinking? The angels were thinking, it's still such a great day. Rosh Hashanah is one of the happiest days in a certain sense of the year, because we are going to be forgiven for our sins. We are repenting. It's a great day. So maybe because of the greatness of the day, we should say Hallel. Maybe that's what they were thinking. But nevertheless, the conclusion was Hashem said to them, the reason that's why they do not say the Hallel. Now we're going to continue in the Gemara. There is a statement that says that there was no greater happy day. It says that there was one of the greatest holidays of the Jewish people was Yom Kippur. Why is it such a great holiday? We're forgiven for our sins. So it's a great time, meaning it's a very happy time. And maybe that could explain, we go from Yom Kippur to Sukkot. Sukkot is called Zman Simchatenu. But it's also, we're at a great level of happiness, spiritual happiness, fulfillment because we coming off of a Yom Kippur. So when that mindset, to continue with that by expressing it at Zman Simchatenu on Sukkot. Okay. And there's also an idea that for a person to really express himself, to be really happy in a truer sense, like by Sukkot, you could be really happy when you're spiritually in the right place. When you're doing the right things in life, when you repented, now you're like a tzaddik, now you're righteous, now you can really be happy. It's very hard for a person to be happy when he has so many things that he did wrong in life, that he didn't fix up in life. So that's weighing him down. But when you go ahead and you repent and you do tshuva, now nothing. It's like a husband and a wife. If they have some issue with each other, and now they want to be very happy, but they didn't resolve the issue. Be very happy, but you still have those things weighing you down. But if you apologize, you put the past away. Now you can really be happy, like that Mashal David. And I said Mashal, right? That's why we have people have to, some people say, work it out, fix it up, then go forward. Then go forward. Don't go to sleep at night until you fixed up what happened by the day. Adam, don't worry, it'll be good.
Yeah.
Good. Shofar Rosh Hashanah. Shofar Rosh Hashanah. Now we have a new Mishnah. The shofar of Rosh Hashanah ein mavirin alav as a tchum. Now, even though shofar is a biblical mitzvah, you do not have a right to. The Mishnah is going to state we're not going to violate rabbinic law in order to help you fulfill this mitzvah. Also, just shows you the power of the Rabbanan. The rabbis were given by God to make certain enactments, and those enactments will remain even if it's going to cost you, you're going to miss out the mitzvah of shofar. So here it says, let's say you have a shofar, someone's blowing the shofar, but it's outside the tchum. The tchum is there's a certain area on Shabbat, on Yom Tov, on Shabbat, you're not allowed to walk outside the city. Let's say maybe 4,000 feet outside the city. You can't walk, let's say, 3/4 of a mile when the city is over. No more houses. You can't walk. You can't go. In the country, there are issues like that. When you have to be careful in the country, if there are a certain amount of places that there's no houses over a certain, and then so maybe that means the city is over. If you don't have houses within a certain amount of area, then that's like a new city. And then then you might have only a certain distance to walk on Shabbat. If you want to go for a big walk on Shabbat in the country, when you're in places that are populated, that's no issue. New York is populated. You can walk from the beginning of Manhattan. You want to walk all the way to the Bronx. You know what I'm saying? You want to walk 200 blocks. It's not a problem on Shabbat. You want to walk from the east side, west side, all the way down from the Lower East Side from here. It's not a problem because there's houses all over the way. You never really left the city. I know for sure going Williamsburg, right? If you're crossing the Williamsburg Bridge, you could cross the Williamsburg Bridge on people walk from Williamsburg to the Lower East Side on Shabbat. So now I wonder if the Bronx would be the same way. I'm not sure. Maybe I should use that as an example. But you could go over the bridge, at least the Williamsburg Bridge you could, yes. I can't tell you about other bridges, but the Williamsburg Bridge I know for sure you could do. The Hasidim from Williamsburg come to the Lower East Side, they pray. The Chabad people walk to the Lower East Side on Shabbat, and they go over the bridge from Crown Heights, from Brooklyn to Manhattan. So you could go ahead but there are issues in the country is where you get into these things. If you want to go for a nice walk in the country, once you're leaving the city, you only have a limited amount of area to go. So now, if the shofar would be outside your city limits, more than 4,000 feet outside your city limits, you're not allowed to go ahead, and the Mishnah states, even to go ahead and do the mitzvah of shofar, this rabbinic law was not pushed to the side. The rabbinic law states you can't travel outside the city limits more than 2,000 amot, 2,000 cubic feet, let's say around 4,000 feet, 2,000 cubic amah, which is around 4,000 feet, around 3/4 of a mile. You can't go ahead and travel outside that city limit. Now, there is such a thing that you could, something called Eruv Tchumim. That means before Shabbat, if you put a certain amount of food, let's say if we say you have 4,000 amot go outside the city. If let's say at night, let's say you have 4,000 feet to travel. So if you go ahead and at 3,950, you put some food there, so then that becomes like your home. Then you could travel another 4,000 feet from that area. That's called an Eruv Tchumim. There's certain things that the rabbis also enacted to help the people when they need to travel more, that you could set it up in a way that you could create that as if your place of residence, because your food will be like your place of residence. That's called Eruv Tchumim. The rabbis gave opportunity for the people, if people needed it. So to do under certain circumstances, the way to do it. Country where there's not houses all over town. It's not houses. You're not living. It's not. It's not a continuous type of city. There's empty spaces over a certain area. Now, mefachin alav et hagav. Let's say there was a home, and the home that contained the shofar fell down, and now it's full of stones. There's a whole rubble of stones. And the stones on Shabbat, on Yom Tov, are mukseh. I can't move stones on Shabbat. Can't move stones on Yom Tov. Here we're talking about Yom Tov. So I'm not allowed to move the stones in order to to get to the shofar. Now, technically, if I have a stone over here on top of a shofar, I can move muksa in an unusual manner, right? If, let's say you have something on the table. Let's say you have something that's muksa. Let's say you left money on the table, right? And money is one of those items that you can't move with your hands on Shabbat, right? Technically, if someone left their computer laptop on the table, technically, let's say it's a nice, let's say it's a nice laptop that was closed, it was finished, but it's mukseh on Shabbat, right? I have my laptop in its case and it was on the table. So if I need the table, there's a law of mukseh says if you need the place, certain things you can move when you need the place. If you left a pen on the table, you can move the pen off the table because you need the table. I need the table to use. You should have moved it before Shabbat. You shouldn't leave it there. It's not respectful that you left the pen on the table and the laptop in its case on the table. But you're allowed to move that level of muksah, that type of muksah is a muksah that's allowed to be moved if you need the place. And you can move it and you can actually pick up that laptop that's closed because nothing's going to happen when you move it, and you could move it off the table. Money is a higher level of muksa. If I need the table to eat and I left 10 singles on the table, I can't pick up the singles and move it off the table. But you know what I could do with it? I could take my elbow. You know the elbow rule, right, David? You can knock it off with your elbow. In an unusual way, you can move muksem, and many say any muksa you can move it. That's, by the way, if you don't know what I'm allowed to do with it, the easy rule is, right, Adam? Move it in an unusual way. You have something that's muksa that's on the floor, you can move it with your foot. You can move the whatever you have something on the floor that's muksa, you can move it with your foot. You have let's say you left out the vacuum cleaner, right? Now, technically, if you need, whatever the case might be, the vacuum cleaner might be also a situation that if you need the place, you might be able to technically move it because you need the place. But let's say a certain type of mukseh that you can't move if you need the place, like money. Money is a higher level mukseh. So if I left it on the table, I can knock off the money. So it's stone also. Stone is a higher level mukseh. If the stone was left here, I can't just pick it up because I need the place. I can knock the stone with my hand unusual way. So technically, if you were able to kick the stones away to get to the shofar, that will not be a problem. We're talking about a situation you won't be able to get to this by just kicking this. You have to pick up the stones. And you can't pick up the stones on Shabbat. So that's the issue over here, the issue of mukseh. So even though, but Rabbi, I need the shofar. The shofar is hidden is there in that rubble. It's a rabbinic prohibition that you can't. The rabbis created the issue of mukseh, and one of the reasons for the prohibition is if you're going to handle everything on Shabbat, Shabbat will not be a day of rest. I'm busy touching, handling everything. You'll be like the Sunday. What do Americans do on a Sunday? Many Americans in the suburbs, they watch football and they rearrange their garage, their tools. Right? They're spending their time in there. Is that correct? What do people do in Deal on Sunday? Some people, I don't know Deal, but in some places in America, they're in their garage. They're moving things around. And if you'll be able to move everything around on Shabbat, it won't be a day of rest. If you can handle everything on Shabbat, David, you hear what I'm saying? That's one reason. Also, rabbis are afraid you might come to carry. If you handle everything, you might come to carry in the street, the place where there's no eruv. So there's different reasons for why the rabbis enacted mukseh. So they did not suspend the prohibition of mukseh to enable you to fulfill the mitzvah of shofar. You gotta be able to figure it out that you should have. Right, especially Rosh Hashana. Rosh Hashana, the laws of mukseh. I said Shabbat. You're right. Let's say Rosh Hashana. Rosh Hashana is the same. Is a Yom Tov. It's a holiday. The laws of mukseh that apply on Shabbat apply on Rosh Hashanah. The same thing. Rosh Hashanah is a day of rest. I can't do malacha. Yes, I could do certain things for food preparation, whatever, certain things I could do on Rosh Hashanah. But generally, it's like Shabbat. Rosh Hashanah is like Shabbat. It's a day that it's a day of rest. You can't do work. And therefore, the rabbis, the enactments of mukseh applied to Rosh Hashanah. The same way you can't handle money on Shabbat, you can't handle money on Rosh Hashanah. Same way you can't move stones on Shabbat, you can't move stones on Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, we want to make sure that, therefore, the rabbis said this prohibition of mukseh. Now, now, that's the ein mefachin alav sagal. You can't remove the stones, the pile of stones to get to the shofar. Lo olin be'ilan. Let's say you have on the top of the tree, you had a shofar. Good morning. Are you looking for the next minyan, next services? Upstairs, you can take the elevator right here. It's the elevator right here. Take it one second floor. Welcome. You see the elevator? Right here. Welcome. Lo olin be'ilan. You're not allowed to climb a tree on Shabbat, right? Mistake, but don't climb the trees on Shabbat. Right? No climbing of trees on Shabbat, right? You got to tell people got to tell their relatives. No climb and friends. No climbing of trees on Shabbat, right? Kids, it's the type of thing kids like to climb, right? Shabbat we don't climb trees. The rabbi said, "What's the problem with climbing trees on Shabbat? Because maybe you might come and cut off a branch." And cut off a branch, and that would be a biblical violation by cutting off a branch. So the rabbis created a safeguard. They said if you don't climb the tree, you won't be able to. That'll prevent you from cutting off the branch. I say if there's no cake in the house, I will not come to eat the cake. If the cake is in the house, I might come to eat it. Don't climb the tree, and therefore that's going to protect you. So now, if you go ahead and you might come pick off a branch, you might come take off some fruit. So therefore, if the shofar is on top of the tree, let's say you have like a, what do you call it, a tree house or something, they put on top, right? And you have a little something on top of the tree, and that's where you store the shofar. You can't go ahead and get the shofar on Rosh Hashanah going up the tree to get it. You have to figure it out some other way. Let's say in order for me to reach my destination on Shabbat, I would have to take a car. Here, the car here is the animal. I'm gonna drive the animal in one area. There's a rabbinic prohibition to go ahead and drive the animal. See, the question is, going on the animal on Yom Tov. So the rabbinic prohibition. And why did the rabbi say I can't ride on the animal on Yom Tov? Because also I might come to take off a stick from the tree in order to lead the animal, right? So therefore the rabbi is warning Ralph. So I might come to every moment counts. Feel good that you came in. Every moment counts. Okay? So you might come to take a stick off the tree to help guide the animal, and maybe even to encourage the animal to keep on going. You might use it. And therefore, the rabbi said you don't go on top of an animal, ride on an animal. So therefore, even if you want to ride the animal to reach, but you're only going to be able to hear the shofar if you drive the animal. If I go by foot, I won't be able to hear the shofar. I won't make it on time. The rabbis did not suspend their rabbinic prohibition. It seems that there is a law the animals can't work on Shabbat, can't work on Yom Tov. We have to look into why that's not called work by riding the animal. Maybe it's not. I mean, if you put a load on an animal, that's called work. Maybe we have to see why that's not part of that biblical issue. But here it seems that's a rabbinic prohibition to ride the animal on Yom Tov, and that's not suspended in order to help facilitate the blowing of the shofar. Mishnah continues, "V'lo shotin al pnei hamayim." If you want to go ahead and swim to reach the shofar, let's say the shofar fell into the water, or on the other side of the water there is a shofar, the other side of the river. The rabbi said, because maybe you're going to build a float. Maybe you're going to build a float, and that's going to be a prohibition of building on the Yom Tov. So the same thing is, therefore the rabbi said, even though the only way you could go ahead and get the shofar is by swimming across, You can't swim. So here, by the way, this is the prohibition of, of swimming on Shabbat, swimming on Yom Tov. We see from here in the Mishnah that because you might come to construct a float, a life preserver, a raft, you might come to make a raft if you're going to allow the guy to swim. So therefore, you can't go ahead and do that on Yom Tov. The Ein Chotrin Oto. And we'll end with this point. You can't go ahead and cut the shofar. To make the shofar, let's say cut it from the animal, or even if it's already cut from it was removed from the animal, but to cut it to size on Yom Tov, you're not allowed to go ahead and do that, whether you do it in a biblical way that'll be prohibited, or you cut it in a rabbinic way, that we'll see more about that. You still can't cut the shofar to make the shofar to size on Yom Tov. Do everything before Yom Tov. I want to wish everyone a beautiful Shabbat and a Chodesh Tov, to be a beautiful Chodesh of Shalom, of Simcha, of every Parnassah, everything good. And we should have, Hashem should give us the right president, this Hashem, in this new month. Yeah, yes. Thank you very much.